Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Parks and Recreation and Leisure Activities Committee for March 4th, 2024, 12 p.m., Charlottetown City Hall Chambers. Order of business, call to order. Item 2, declarations of conflicts of interest. None. Approval of agenda.
Moved.
Second, thank you. Adoption of minutes of January 26, 2024.
Moved.
Business arising from the minutes.
None.
First time for everything. Okay, let's move into the reports. First report, Charlottetown Knights Major Under 18 Male Hockey Team request to move to Simmons Sports Center for the year 2024-2025. Report attached. Who's going to handle this one, Frank, you or Christopher?
I'll take it.
Okay. Please, Frank, go ahead.
All right, so you'll see this report in your package. We received requests from the Charlottetown Knights Major Under 18 Male Hockey Team to move from the Bell Alliance Center to the new Simmons Sports Center in 2024-2025. And our recommendation is, staff's recommendation is to deny the request for this team to move to the new Simmons for the 2024-2025 season. Since current users will have to be displaced and cannot be accommodated at another facility. Now, I'll give a few details on just as the requests come in. So initially, we met with the president of the Knights board back in June, Mike and myself, and he put forward a proposal, and you'll see the proposal in your package, detail on sort of what their needs were and what they could bring to the table. The Knights require a minimum of 3 hours practice time and a minimum of 2.5 hours a week for games. So that's for both, so it'd be 5.5 plus hours. This would displace, the main users that this was going to displace was the Charlottetown Minor Hockey, Charlottetown Figure Skating, and Charlottetown Can Power Skate. We followed up at the Bell Alliance Center to see whatever ice time they were leaving behind, if it could be reallocated to these groups that were bumped, and they indicated that it couldn't be. They already had groups in line that would be reallocated that ice time. So, we have reached out to the current Simmons user that would be affected and asked, would this be something that they would be open to? And they all did not want to give up any ice time. The fact they all want more ice time, which we know that Simmons, Cody Banks, Bell Alliance Center are all, and Eastlink are all at capacity. We also have additional requests that have come in as well. The U18 female team, the Sherwood Junior B team, and the Sherwood Junior C team, they've also sort of done an informal request that they would like to potentially move to the new Simmons as well, and we wouldn't be able to accommodate them either. So we are recommending to stay with the current ice schedule and not displacing any of the current users, and that this new request can be revisited in the 2025-2026 season after the inaugural year of the Simmons Arena being open.
I think I'll start off. I know that with the new construction of Simmons Arena, this location, I know there was a lot of enthusiasm from representatives from the Charlottetown Knights wanting to have the opportunity to make the new Simmons Arena their home. And, I understand there's ice time is at a premium. And having said that, you outlined, Frank, that there's practice times. They require 3 hours of practice times a week. Was there a possibility that they could continue on and practice at the Bell Alliance Center and have their games at Simmons. Was that something that, that you explored with the president of the Charlottetown Knights? Was there, different options looked at, or was it just, just looked at, no, we can't accommodate you in terms of practices, and we can't accommodate you in terms of games?
Chair Twill. So we looked at that as well. The biggest thing is that their needs is that they actually need a dedicated dressing room, and they also need storage space. So they have their equipment there, so it would be very difficult for them to practice in one rink and play games in another rink, because at the Bell Alliance Center, they have a dedicated dressing room, and they have dedicated storage space as well. So that was part of their request that they moved to Simmons, and I think I'm correct in saying that, Mike? So, yeah, so it'd be, I don't know how you would do that, because the fact that they have stuff that's stored in their dressing room, like they leave I think all their gear and everything in the dressing room. It's not moved from one place to another.
Floor is open.
Thank you, Councillor Twill. I think in reviewing the proposal, what I failed to see was what they were gaining by going to Simmons as opposed to staying at Bell Alliance Center. They have a dedicated dressing room there. There's tons of stores. They got all kinds of ice time already dedicated to them. The facility is a great facility. They've been currently playing there for a number of years. I guess I'm just failing to see, to move over there to cause the disruption and displacement of minor hockey and trying to, reallocate different ice times and, to more of a status quo situation for minor hockey year over year. We didn't add an additional ice pad to that surface, so we're not gaining anything new in the perspective of more ice time. So that's, if anything, as minor hockey indicated, there's more ice time needed. We should be talking about more facilities, not, just realigning people to so they can have a new home. Now, again, I'm not seeing the value in moving from one place to the other than a new facility. Maybe I'm failing to understand the rationale of why they would want to move or the need to move. I don't know if you can address that, Councillor Twill, through to the manager or to Mike.
Councillor Matard, I would say that just the fact that it's a brand new facility, and also I have a feeling that over at Bell Line Center, they feel they're behind the UPEI teams. They don't feel like they're the premier tenant, let's say. So that would be probably where they're coming from as far as trying to get into a different facility, feel like they're not being, their expectations aren't being met potentially at Bell Line Center, since UPEI kind of has first kick at the can over there. So,
Thank you, Mike. And I get that. I can see that certainly is the motivation driving factor. I think what concerns me and why I couldn't support that is, just at the detriment of minor hockey, and, the facts are there. There's not enough ice time. We would be displacing minor hockey teams as a result of them coming in there. I liked your suggestion about the practice in different areas, although as Frank indicated, that would be very difficult. They want to leave their gear there, much like the Panthers do. They want to be able to come and go and just use that as a main facility. They certainly offered some things here about advertisement sharing with, boards, ice boards, digital signage, et cetera, and proceeds shared with the city. That seemed to be a value add for them wanting to move there. If they were able to accommodate the different challenges with the ice, it would be probably something very entertaining, but I think it might be at the detriment of minor hockey. That's where I'm at.
And I'll just a further comment on that. Like, we looked at every option we could. Believe me, Mike and I went through, and mainly Mike went through to see what could be done, because we wanted to try to find a way, but we just couldn't without affecting their other users, which is, minor hockey, the figure skating, and power skating groups. Like, these are three groups that have been long-standing groups with Simmons facilities, so.
Sorry, my apologies. I should have mentioned, the effect on the other associations that are utilizing that ice as well. I didn't want to single out
Yeah.
minor hockey, so. Thank you.
Just before I go, I understand that, and maybe I'm wrong, but that speed skating, that association or some of the programming has been relocated to the arena in Rustico due to the fact that, it's a much bigger ice surface, and that seemed to be much more accommodating in terms of more, it's international ice surface. I'm not sure if that's true or it is true. Maybe I can get a clarification on that to see what programming has been relocated to Rustico. I know the Mount, they've tried a number of occasions to work with Kerry in terms of ice time and could never seem to come up with some type of a favorable arrangement, and that was the motivation of relocating to Rustico. So, having said that, I'll go back to you, Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, I'll just provide a general comment. So the speed skating group is not one of the groups that are being affected at all, so it didn't even play into our consideration. But my understanding is that a lot of the speed skating time has moved out to North Rustico, or some? No? One evening has. So it's only one evening has moved out to North Rustico, and the rest is actually in Charlottetown at Eastlink Center. So, yeah, and they were not one of the groups that were going to be affected, so they didn't play into our decision at all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Chair, this has been going on for the last couple of years, with the Knights making requests to, sit down, talk about trying to get involved, be a new tenant in the new Simmons Aqua Arena facility. So this is not just arrived on our desk today. This has been ongoing, and I know that the president has been talking to you, has been talking to me. I think he's been talking to staff.
Yeah.
So we have an opportunity for the Charlottetown Knights, and I visited their dressing room at Kerry. It's not very accommodating. This is a new facility. It's a growing team. It's part of our hockey program at the major midget level, and I disagree with the recommendation because I believe that they should be given an opportunity to put themselves in that new rink. And as you said, Mr. Chair, let's see if we can make the schedules work. If Kerry, as you said, Kerry has lost the Mount. Mount Hockey Academy is now out at Rustico. And if that's not true, Frank, if that's not true, then just to clarify it.
Oh, it is true.
Well, let's,
Yeah, no, the Mount has moved to Rustico, but all of the Mount's ice times are during the day, during the school hours,
Yeah.
so it doesn't affect users at all, really. We had them at Cody Banks for the past 2 seasons before they went to Rustico.
Yeah.
Along with the Bell Line Center, and it doesn't affect users from 3:30 on.
Yep.
Because all their ice times are from 8 a.m. till 2:30, so.
no, Mike, I knew that. Because the academy is hockey academy, so their school day includes hockey, whether it's in the morning or the afternoon, early morning or in the evening. So I knew that. I'm just saying, they're gone. And so there's time there. There has to be time there for, look, we can make this work. I want to make this work. And that's why I'm disagreeing with the recommendation from the department. Let's make this work because we have the Charlottetown Knights that want to set up shop in our new facility, a new client. And again, Mr. Chair, when we come to conclusion on this issue, we have to get a timeline on when we are going to be opening this facility. I've heard October, but I'd like to get some timelines similar to timelines that are available for the Eastern Gateway Waterfront project. They give us milestones. We have to see those milestones so that we can make sure that we have that facility up and running, hopefully in October.
Okay,
And the pool. But, Mr. Chair, to get back to this issue,
Yeah.
I am not supporting the recommendation. I want us to find a way to make it work. And I think this is not a new item on our table. This has been discussed for the last couple of years with yourself, with counselors, let's make it work.
Just a clarification. My discussions were with the president on an informal basis, okay, in a cafe where I ran into the gentleman, and I said, you know, we'd be glad to look at it.
Yeah.
I was not involved in any formal meetings.
Formal,
No, hold.
formal or
hold.
informal.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Just a minute. I was not involved in any formal meetings. Senior staff in Parks and Recreation wanted to handle that, right? I did send emails off, and senior staff said they would meet with representatives from the Knights hockey team to discuss their proposal. So just want to make that clear. I was not involved in any formal discussions, and to sit down at the table to look at any type of options, any type of arrangements, what the possibilities may or may not be. So just want to clear the record.
Yeah, clear my record
No,
too. My
no.
meetings have been informal, but the point I'm making, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
this has been discussed over the last couple of years. This is not a new ask. My point is that we've had a couple of years while this facility was under construction to make it work. So let's make it work. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so, again, I'm not sure of the timelines. I know that I would have talked to the president about, maybe about a year ago, ran into him. But having said all of that, and again, that was informally in a cafe, right? I did not have the opportunity to sit down with representatives to discuss a formal presentation, senior management, with the Parks and Recreation Department. So I just want to be clear on that.
Yeah.
But
Mr. Chair, but I did tell the president to give you a call.
I ran into him.
Okay?
I ran
To
into
make a
him.
presentation to this committee. Now, the presentation we have in front of us today is not with the team. It's from staff recommending not to allow them to use the Simmons Aqua Arena facility
Okay,
for the
okay,
24-25.
that's clear. They met with senior staff, so I'm going to turn it back to the manager. Okay, presentation was made to senior management. You're correct. It was not made to any elected officials. So having said that, I'm going to turn it back over to our manager. Frank, please.
Okay, Chair Twill, through to your worship. With regards to the request, this is a request for ice time, which is dealt operational. So we looked at our operational schedules, and believe me, we were trying to come up with a way to make this work. With regards to the times they're requesting, and it's other ice times, other groups are going to be bumped. We don't have ice time during their prime hours. They want it. We don't have it available. You can't put a minor group at 11 o'clock at night. A lot of these times that these groups have actually, for example, power skate time, it goes from 3:30 till or whatever time. It's a continuous time, so you can't take out 1 hour for their practice and try to accommodate them somewhere else, and we don't have anywhere else. There was discussion, and it wasn't officially, didn't come an official request come to us until June when we met. There was, I think, a presentation came before that, but it was June we met. So that's when we officially received the request, June of this year. 2023, yeah, last year, June last year, couldn't have this year, hasn't happened yet. So once we got the presentation, we sat down and Mike and I went through it, and Mike reviewed it and reviewed it and reviewed it to see if there's any way we can't justify bumping our other minor sport groups that have kept Simmons, that have been at Simmons for years. Charlottetown Minor Hockey, Charlottetown Figure Skating, and the Can Power Skate. So while we wish we could have, and we wish we could have accommodated, it just was not possible. It's not something we're closing the door on. Once the facility opens and we get it running, and is there a way to move it, we can look at other options, but we have to have the buy-in of the minor sport groups. And the fact that the Charlottetown Knights team does have a facility and does have ice time now at Bell, they're not, they're not desolate and need a spot to go. They have an ice time right now, so. I don't know if Mike wants to comment anymore, but.
Mr. Chair, just I need maybe a clarification for me to the manager, can I? They're looking for 5.5 hours, 5.5 hours a week, 3 for practice, 2.5 for game. Are they currently utilizing that much time at Bell Line, or are they looking for additional ice time here? And I guess then the second question to that is, if they were to come over to Simmons And if they were utilizing 5.5 hours over at Bell Line, what's happening to the 5.5 hours at Bell Alliance? And maybe you can't answer that because Bell Alliance is not allocating that. So can I get that addressed, please?
So yeah, they're currently using 3 practice hours a week and minimal 1 home game. So they might have 2 home games. So it's 3 practice hours for sure and at least 1 home game per week. That's what they currently have over at the Bell Line Center. And what was the other second follow-up?
What's happening with the 5.5 hours?
We've reached out to the Bell Line Center and asked if we could allocate our ice over there if we brought them over. And they said, no, they already have those ice times earmarked for other minor sport groups.
Okay.
So there is nowhere to put them. If there was, it's an easy solution.
Yeah.
And we don't have to
So-
worry about bumping other users to no ice time. But now we don't have that solution.
So it seemed like it would have been an easy trade-off. Come over there and utilize that building as your home base. We'll give you the 5.5 hours allocated back over here for your minor sports. By the sounds of it, Bell Line is saying, no, we're going to utilize that for something else. Not much we can do there. That should be an agreement the Knights are making with them to say if we move there to do that, like some negotiation should be happening if, that certainly will put us at a disadvantage if we lose 5.5 hours of ice time.
Yeah, so exactly, and we could have made it work. Like Frank said earlier, there is continuation of ice time. So on a Monday, for example, when they practice over at Bell Line Center, we have 3 hours back to back of power skate. So for them to just pull 1 hour out of there, doesn't really make sense. So we would have to work around that. But yes, if we had the hours to push over either the East Link or the Bell Line Center, it would be a much easier, simpler solution. But we just don't have that option right now.
Yep.
And to push away users that have been there for many years, for the last number of years, waiting for this new facility to open, and now go to them and say, actually, we're going to pull away 3 to 4 hours of your time so we can bring in a different user. To me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense for this inaugural season of the rink.
And you can find time in Morel or something if you need extra time, so it's not going to work. Yeah, go to Rustico, yeah. no.
So, Mr. Chair, one thing that makes sense to me is that, so if the Knights stay at UPEI, they're 5.5 hours or they're 8 hours. Well, if they were moving, they must have had that space already filled. So how could they stay there and still not affect the programming at Cary? I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. So if they're going to move, as you said, the minimum 1 game per week. So 2 games would be 5 hours plus the 3 hours for practice. That's 8 hours. Now, the Knights will have to keep those hours, but what about? It doesn't make sense to me.
So what happens? So what happens when the Knights aren't playing on,
Yeah.
say, a Sunday afternoon? They're on the road. Let's, for example, say that ice automatically goes back to Ringette or Sherwood Minor Hockey or whoever
Yeah.
uses it when the Knights don't. So all that ice time will go back to whatever that user is, whether it's Ringette, whether it's Sherwood Minor Hockey, whether it's Charlottetown Minor Hockey, or whoever else the user is, those specific game dates are not there anymore, that ice just automatically reverts back to those users.
And to state that the new request can be revisited for the 25-26. If we can't do it now, I can't see how it's going to get better in 25-26, 26-27. I think we're shutting the door and locking it if we say no today. And I want to see it work. So I'm proposing that, I'm not agreeing with the recommendation. I don't know where we go, Mr. Chair, but we have to put a resolution on the floor to recommend it. I'll second the recommendation. Yeah, and I don't. Yep. So it's up to you, Councillor Twill. So Ty.
I think what I'll do is I'll ask our staff, just take one more look at this and just go over, your synopsis and the work that you've done and bring it back to our next committee meeting. Just, Frank, if you don't mind, just have another look at it. And whatever your findings are, then that's fine. But if you don't mind, please just go back and just have another look. And again, if your findings are the same, that's all I can ask for. Just please have another look.
So Councillor Twill, I just want to add to that, I am supportive of having them as a home base there. However, based on all the information provided here today, is at the detriment of other minor sports and activities that are happening there. I don't know how we could address that and being, displacing ice time and trying to figure it out is going to be very challenging. If they're able to go back and come back with, we may be able to do this, then that would definitely be something. And if they're at the end of where they can go, then that's where it'll be at the end of the day. So I just want to be clear, I'm not against the
Yeah.
Charlottetown Knights moving in any way, shape, or form.
I appreciate that, Councilman Matard. I'm not suggesting to displace anyone. Okay, I want to be clear on that. As you know, was pointed out here in the presentation, some of these particular community groups have utilized Simmons Arena for a number of years, probably there for decades. I am not suggesting the displacement of any community user groups. I'm not
Nor am I.
in any way, shape, or form. All I'm asking for is, because we don't have it seems to be split here. So I would just ask our senior administration, please go back, just have another look. And you know what, if what other, I mean, who knows what their additional research might come up with. And if it's the same, that's fine. There's no rush. There's no rush. But please take it back and have another look.
Yeah. So just a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, sure.
We have to put a resolution on the floor. I think that Councillor Matart wants to put a resolution on the floor to support it. I'll second that. I will second that. But when we take the vote, I'm voting against it, so it's 1-1. I don't know, what's your vote?
Deferring. and
My vote
everything.
is
Well,
to
no,
send it
but-
back to the
Then
senior
we have to put a
administration.
resolution back on the floor to defer it.
I'm sending it back to the management.
I support
to have another
deferring
look.
it.
You
For another
support the deferral?
I'll support the deferral to have a second pass at it, or a third pass at it,
Yeah.
whatever it is, to uncover, look under every stone to determine if this is
Yeah.
something that can be done. And if we
Let's just,
can't, then
let's just
it's
have
back.
another look. And again,
Yeah.
I want to make it crystal clear, and to your point, Councilor Matart, not to displace anyone
No,
of the groups
but
that
trying
are
to
there.
make it work.
Yeah.
So, that's fair.
Yeah.
I do know that they've had difficulties out of Kerry, right?
Yeah.
I do know that. You know what, Mr. Mayor?
I don't know that, but.
Oh, no, Mr. Mayor, I think that's quite clear. So I really don't know why that is. Of course, that's another jurisdiction. Maybe we need to find out why they're having difficulties out of Kerry, right? If we're asking our staff, I'm asking our staff to please have another look. I'd like to also get a synopsis as to what's been going on out of Kerry
Yeah.
and why they're having difficulties.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 2 ice pads out there, bought and paid for by the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Capital costs, operational costs, right? And for some reason, they don't seem to be, they're not satisfied
Yeah.
with what's happening out of Kerry.
Yeah.
Again, no different than the Mount. The Mount had to relocate to Rustico. So Frank, if you don't mind, please have another look. And
So-
again, under the guise of not displacing anyone.
Yeah.
Thank
So,
you.
Mr. Chair, my point of order, I just want to make sure that it's clear. So we're deferring it, so you can't put a resolution on the floor. You can only break the tie. So the councillors now put a resolution on the floor to defer it. I'll support the deferral, second the deferral, so that can go in the minutes. That's what I want to, and why I want to say that, Councillor Matard, is that when we go into this deferral, I need a timeline on, and we've talked about this on the opening, the milestones that we have to reach for the construction and the opening. I'm getting lots of calls. I'm getting text messages, Facebook messages, when is it going to open? And I don't have something to say, here's what's going on in terms of timelines. It's, we're doing the ice surface, and just so we have a
Well,
chart.
I thought we made it public, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Manager, I thought we made it public on a number of occasions, please tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That we said that the opening of the new Simmons Arena would be the month of October. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Mr. Quinn?
So Chair Twill, that is what we're striving towards. And right now, with regards to milestones, Mayor Brown has indicated to me that he would like to have something high level, so we are working on that right now with our project managers. There are 3 contractors on the site, so we have Fitz and Snow, we have EMC, and we have Acapulco Pools. So we are working to make sure that all those schedules are working together and they're all ending or reaching the end target of October 1st. So we will put together, working right now with our project managers, and have something within the near future. So within the next couple weeks, we will have a high-level milestone schedule.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so again, for my own peace of mind, Mr. Quinn, I was accurate, because when people ask me in the community, I tell them the date is October. We are going to open up that new facility in October. I'm being accurate, right? Correct, I'm being factual?
You're being accurate. What we provided you at this time, yes, unless something changes, and we're hoping not, we're keeping our fingers crossed, but as you know, with a big project of this size,
Okay.
things can change, but we are right now working to nail down that schedule to make sure everything is going to be
Yeah.
connecting and
So-
opening on time.
So to add to that, I'm requesting our communications people do up a bit of a press release so we can avoid the confusion in the community. Let's do up a press release and send it out to the community at large, saying, this is the date that we're going to be opening up the new facility in October. That's what we've said all along. I want to be consistent in our messaging. It's very important to me as chair of this committee, because I don't want different scenarios or different, different misconceptions out there being promoted in the community. So since we have a communications team here at City Hall, I would suggest that we put something together and include me in the press release. Thank you. Okay. Our next item. Charlottetown Yacht Club request for partnership funding for seawall reconstruction. As I understand it, this request takes in a number of committees. It's not just one committee. I believe this was vetted through another committee, so I guess it's here because of Parks and Recreational prerequisites. I'm not sure.
Yes, it was deemed to be, and I'll go through the report here, but it was deemed to fall best underneath the Parks and Recreation Department because of the type of infrastructure it was. So-
Well, I think why wasn't this brought to this committee before?
So what I'll do,
Because
Chair
it was
Tweed-
brought, no, sorry, Frank, sorry to interrupt you, I don't mean to, but this was brought to another committee, was it not? And I guess I'm surprised as to why was it not brought to the Parks and Recreation Committee initially, as opposed to,
Ask
you
the
know,
manager.
well, no, it was brought to another committee. So I'd like to know why was it vetted through another committee when it should have came to Parks and Recreation?
No, initially it was brought
No, I
through
don't-
your
Frank,
chair.
excuse me, I don't think it's been brought through any other committee.
No?
No, this is the primary committee. Strategic priorities?
No, we received the letter, we just haven't brought it forward. I can go back and check, but I don't,
I'd like that checked out, because I thought it was vetted through another committee.
because I would have had to write that report, and I don't remember reading that.
Okay,
So he's going with his recommendation.
My understanding is they made a presentation to the Strategic Priorities, Communications,
Oh,
and Intergovernmental
okay,
Affairs.
there we go.
Operation. So they made a presentation, just like, that happened. So they made a presentation to
Right
that
on.
committee. So I detailed that in my report, so.
sorry to interrupt again, Frank. Here's the question, CAO Elner, why wasn't that presentation made to this committee?
It was timing for budget.
Timing for, that's irrelevant, it should have came to this committee.
Well, it's here now.
No, but it should have came to this committee initially.
We were preparing the operational budget to be able to get it to finance. All requests actually should have been made last November. So this was a last-minute financial request
And it went to another committee.
that we were trying to
Okay.
get it. We fit it into strategic priorities so it can be considered as part of the operational budget.
You know what? I totally disagree. Anyway, go ahead, Mr. Quinn.
Okay, Chair Tweel. So the request is the Charlottetown Yacht Club request for partnership funding for the seawall reconstruction. And you'll see underneath the issue summary here that other departments have been involved in this discussions, and right from finance, public works, and water and sewer, because of where we weren't sure where this project would fit. And that was initially when the presentation was made. It was made to strategic priorities to sort of say, okay, this is a project we have. What department will it fall underneath? And it wasn't until we were reviewing it later that we realized that it makes sense to go into Parks and Rec. So the Charlottetown Yacht Club are asking the city to consider providing partnership funding for the seawall reconstruction down at their location. And the recommendation is that that council supports the recommendation for the city to provide $318,000 in partnership funding for the reconstruction of this seawall, and that the required funds be allocated from the city's 2024-2025 capital budget. Further, that the city will enter into a 10 to 15-year license agreement with CYC with the option to renew. Also, for the benefit of the public, the city will ensure that the CYC will continue to provide public dock and paddlecraft launch area, and consider the request to provide access to the city's fire and rescue boat. So we already had a license agreement with them for the dock and the paddlecraft launch area for the last 10 years. So just the details on the report, you'll see they made a presentation to Strategic Priorities, Communications and Intergovernmental Cooperations Committee. You'll see the attached map that identifies the location. This is a large project. CYC has been able to access $3.679 million in federal government funding from ACOA. CADC will be contributing $368,000. Since a small part of the project is actually on their property, CYC indicated that they will draw upon its bank to access $400,000. This leaves a shortfall of $1.062 million. CYC presentation included a request to the city for $318,000, which is 30% of the shortfall. So when we were reviewing this, that's sort of the overhaul, but once we sat down and realized that we have a license agreement with CYC for the purpose of providing a dock and paddlecraft launch area for the public used for the last 10 years, it was deemed that this type of request should go through our Parks and Recreation Department, and that we would review it and see how this impacts our launch area. Once we reviewed it, and I discussed with other departmental managers, that an option we felt that was the best option, that the city could possibly fund this type of project under capital budget. We figured the way we do is we'd enter into a license agreement, which we already have, so we could actually expand that license agreement, where the city would own a portion of the infrastructure where the dock and paddle area is located. So, and then for the term of the agreement, this would ensure that we have the dock and paddlecraft launch area will continue to exist for public use. And if you look to the maps that are attached, so you'll see the first one there refers to the actual area in question, which is outlined in yellow. Then you'll see the second one is the actual area that is being constructed in the area for consideration, which is the area in red. So that's the area they're talking that we would enter into a license agreement. You will see the next is a picture of at low tide where our floating dock is and the actual gangway that connects to it. So we will be looking at extending that gangway. You'll see the sidewall there, how deteriorated it has become. It's actually leaning inwards. So this upgrade would actually allow that this would be a much safer area. You'll see the next picture there is when the actual city and the Charlottetown Yacht Club entered a partnership to actually open this public slip, which happened about 10 years ago. And then you'll see when the water is up there, the next one where you see where actually our floating dock goes out, people can launch small watercrafts off it, and you see how vibrant the area is. So it gives the public access to this area. And just to conclude, so then we were looking at it as well. So this would be under that we'd enter for this, the small craft, but also the city would contribute some of this money. So for the actual seawall, we'd be contributing some of the money towards, and then we'd also be contributing to the new gangway, which was extend the length. Right now, they're raising the whole seawall 3 feet. so they need a longer gangway. So we would end up owning the gangway along with the floating dock and own the seawall for the term of the agreement. And this will just ensure that the city has a safe and accessible area for the public dock and the paddle area for the term of the agreement. And I would see, we've been in 10 years through this agreement. It's been a very positive experience. We would, go for another 10 to 15. I would see it being renewed. We are going to make sure that we're having good advertisement of signs and signage. I know initially there was signs saying, public access. We'll make sure that there is signage and whatnot, that the people are aware of this. But then also, I was asked to ask the question if we could potentially have a berth spot for the city's fire and rescue boat at this location. CYC is considering, but they'll have to see if this is possible or not. So I don't know if there's any other questions, but that's a quick overview of the request.
Well, considering that we didn't entertain this in our capital budget, now it's here. I do support the initiative. I applaud the yacht club for the work they've done with the other two levels of government to acquire this money. This has been talked about well over a decade. This work needs to be done. I guess you pointed out, Frank, in terms of identifying the slip areas. Does this open up a whole new bunch of opportunities for increasing programming for kayaking and some of the things that you mentioned in your presentation? Can we introduce new types of programming where all demographics can have that opportunity with this new infrastructural renewal? I know you probably maybe never had the opportunity to look at it now, but I wonder, thinking out loud, if there's an opportunity to look at additional programming as opposed to what the status quo is. And again, you don't have to answer it now. You can bring that information back. I do think it's a good project, and I think it's good for the city. It's certainly good for the yacht club because it's pretty devastating down there now with what they have to work with. I'll open up the floor. Or Frank, did you want to respond?
I'll just provide a general comment, Chair Twill. So right now, this would enable the programming to continue and for them to actually expand on it. If you have a better infrastructure, you're going to draw more people there, of course. We wouldn't be doing the programming ourselves since that's not our level of expertise, but CYC and other nonprofit groups would be delivering different types of boating programs. So,
Having said that, can you please make sure that's one of the prerequisites when we do sign an agreement? I'm very interested, committed to additional programming. We're going to make a substantial investment, and I'd like to be able to tell the taxpayers, you know what, there's going to be additional programming and great opportunity for everyone to participate. I'm going to open up the floor now.
Thank you, Councillor Twill. A couple questions. My first question is, I believe the manager indicated we were in currently a 10-year lease agreement or license. I call it a license agreement, I guess, here. If so, is that coming to an end? And two, do we pay an operational fee per year for that?
So, Councillor Bedard. So we do actually have a license agreement. It is coming to an end this year, so we have to go in, we have to renew it for this year. We do contribute an actual fee, and I'd have to look to exact amount, but I'm going to say around $5,000 a year.
7,000. 7,000.
Yeah, and I could get the exact number. I know it's not quite that, but it's in the range. So 5,000 of it in the range of it goes to actually the install and removal of the dock system, and they actually store it down there. And another, $1,100 to $1,200 goes to actually 3 spots that are set aside for public parking. So we do, but if we were doing the install ourselves and the removal ourselves, we'd be hiring someone to do it. It would cost us that much, if not more.
So that'll maintain then as well on top of the 318 capital costs they're looking for. Secondly, talked about, use the words like us owning that section. I think you said owning. I don't know if that really what you meant. Or, so in the event of 5, 7, 8 years down the road, there's a situation that occurs, would we be then responsible to repair that and own that part, I guess, from a weather event or something that caused some significant damage there? What are we actually getting ourselves into in the sense of ownership? Because I believe you said the word own, or we would own a portion of the infrastructure. So I want to know what that means by owning the portion of the infrastructure. Like, do we,
So yes, Councilor Materet, so we're trying to make that we can capitalize this to make it a tangible asset. So we would actually own the actual, and as for the terms of the agreement, we'd own that section. We could put a clause in the actual license agreement, which is what I'm looking at, is that we're given this initial capital cost, but if any additional, say, repairs or whatnot are needed, that it would be responsible to the Charlottetown Yacht Club. I've been told that once this is done, it should not need any repairs for many, many years.
well, if that's the case, then I think we should build that into the agreement, that
Yes.
we're not responsible for, if we proceed and using this capital investment to get it back up to where it needs to be. And if they, I don't think that that's something that we should be responsible for 10 to 15 years from a maintenance and even a repair perspective, because who knows what the next weather event might be and how that might, and hopefully, of course, we don't want to see that do anything down there in that area. Lastly, Councillor Tweel, you admitted or indicated to, this is not something that we discussed as an as a capital budget on our budget. Those have now been submitted and forward to our finance team. I believe we're meeting in the coming days, if not weeks, to discuss that. I'm concerned about the priorities of what we already discussed in our capital and how $318,000 would impact other services and programs that we had in there. So
Wow.
not really going back to look at that at this moment in time. I'm concerned about bringing this in at the 11th hour after we've already discussed and allocated. Here, well, we approved our priorities to move forward.
That is correct.
I'm not opposed to putting it forward, but I don't know where we're at in the stage of the capital
Well,
initiative. So
I-
that's my biggest concern there.
I'm aligned with you on that, Councilor Matart. That's not to say you can't entertain, you can always entertain new proposals. I just wish it would have been brought to us earlier. Anyway, I guess it is what it is, but, we went through I would suggest a pretty rigorous process. I mean, I'm not in favor of deleting anything that we submitted to finance and then from finance to council. I am not in favor of deleting or subtracting. So, you know what? This is a one-off, we want to add it on, that's great. But we went through a process. And, anyway.
Yeah, I concur, Councillor Tweel. I think we could, move it to, I'd be supportive to move it forward, but not again at the detriment of some of the other things that we've already
That's right,
prioritized.
I agree.
I'm not sure where that then further got prioritized in the big grand scheme of the capital budget, and council will decide. But if we have to now come back and reevaluate this over the other things we've
I'm not in
selected,
favor of that. Nope,
I
not a chance.
I would think that would not be
No way.
favorable as well. So
No.
I mean,
It didn't come to our committee at first, so no, not a chance. Okay, Mr. Mayor?
A chance to what, to add this?
No, not a chance to delete what we submitted, right? That's what I'm saying, Mr.
okay.
Mayor. This committee at the 11th hour, as Mr. Matart said, I'm not in favor of deleting any of the capital projects that we've submitted. We were pretty frugal, pretty conservative in what we submitted, so I just hope, there's not a standoff here.
I don't think there'll be a standoff. That's all part of the budget process. You've been around here for a long time. Frank, through the chair to Frank. Frank, if I go back to your slide 16, I think it's 16, Frank. If I look at, now, you've been here long enough, Frank, and I was on council, so was Councillor Tweel. Where the boats are, that property where your boats are, and then you have the green space, and then you have now, it's called the Sale Apartments. See the yellow? It's yellow, bordered by yellow color, right? Was that our parking lot at one point in time, the city? I thought we did we deed that over back in early 2000, Frank? Do you remember? Yeah,
At the end of Pownell Street?
yeah, you see the green space, which I think CADC owns that. Thought we owned, do you?
Your worship, I don't recall. My understanding, as long as I can recall, it's been owned by CADC, but I.
Oh, no, the green space is owned by CADC. Where the boats are? See
No,
the
well,
boats?
sorry, CYC, yeah.
Owned it.
And now I'd have to,
Okay.
I don't believe, not that I recall, I'd have to go back,
Okay.
look historically in the maps.
So we do have an agreement in place, Frank. It's under grants. That's, maybe, you and I think I crossed wires. What you're talking about is taking in, placing the easy docks and then taking them out. But we agreed to, there was a issue down at the end of Queen Street that was the outflow. We had to redirect that outflow, and we have $7,000. I think it's over 10 years, so that's, yeah.
Right, your worship, that's a different agreement they have.
But Frank, I don't think it came through this committee, that whole issue.
You're correct.
Yeah. So again, the reason I bring that up, Mr. Chair, is that when this idea was presented by Steve Cudmore and group, and I think Andrew Rankin was here, they were trying to float the idea of where it would go. So like, they were floating the ask, hoping that we would sign on. The appropriate department, correct, Frank, is to go through Parks and Recreation. That's why we have to make the Standing Committee for Strategic Priorities, Communication, and Intergovernmental Relations did not make a decision. They just received the presentation. That's all they did. So, and the point is, Councilor Matard, is that, again, this is a way that we work outside the silos. This is a way that we can get a buy-in. And so there's no, I don't see it as a disrespect to this standing committee that it didn't come here first. But what I do appreciate is that Steve Cudmore and his group did lay out a very comprehensive plan, as they did for the Strategic Priority Standing Committee. So it's capitalized, we're going to capitalize it. Now, just clarify to me, how can we capitalize it? Because we're going to take over the boardwalk, the sidewalk, what is it that allows us to capitalize it as an asset?
So we're going to enter into a licensed agreement for a section of the seawall where the actual floating dock, the dock system, the paddle area attaches. So that area that was in red, if you go on the actual drawings.
Yeah, so was that 18? Is that where the dock, page 18, you see the, your ramp going down to the dock that's no water? Yeah, so
Yeah, that area right there. So if you look at the actual detailed drawings.
I know where they are.
So that area that's highlighted in red, that is the area they're indicating that we would have a license agreement for.
Yeah.
That we would own the seawall portion for the terms of the agreement, so it allows us to capitalize the asset.
Yeah. Okay, so Councillor Matart was asking about, maybe you mentioned to Councillor, in response to Councillor Matart's concerns, that we can put a caveat in that agreement that if something happens because of Hurricane Fiona 2.0, that it would be their responsibility. I'd like to hopefully that can go somewhere, because if we claim it as an asset, it's our asset. That's the only way to look at it, guys. And Frank, this is not a criticism. I'm supporting the project. This is much needed. Thank heavens Fiona didn't come from the southeast. We would have been left with nothing, like zero at the end of Pownell, if Fiona had hit from the southeast. So thank heavens it's still there. We have to mitigate a Fiona 2.0 by building up and by reinforcing the seawall. So in all technical reasons or in legal reasons, we will own it. Because if we claim it as an asset on our books, it's our asset. So I'm willing to take that risk because this asset is just as important as the wharf that's next door, Queen Street Wharf. That's not ours, but that's an infrastructure. Hopefully, this will be inspired to do something from what will happen here at the Charlottetown Yacht Club. So I think it's a great project.
So, Your Worship, so the details in the license agreement, that'll be brought back to council when that agreement's put into place for a resolution of council to pass, and I will be working on putting those clauses in there.
Yeah.
And because, like you said, I think it's ultimately, at the end of the day, it wouldn't necessarily be just that little section that potentially was damaged. If there was a catastrophic event, it would potentially damage additional. So, it's more or less, it's a way for us to contribute, and it's also a way for us to make sure that we actually have a dock and paddle boat area there for the next 10 to 15 years.
And it's too bad we couldn't use that, Mr. Chair, that slip as more of a public slip. I think you have to pay to use the slip down there. It's unfortunate, but anyways, that's something we can work out going down the road. But look, great project, definitely need it. Hurricane Juan back in 2003, it showed what it could do. And this time around,
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
we avoided Hurricane Fiona ripping it apart. So
okay, thank you.
I'm a vote in favor.
Okay, so just want to come back to a couple of things you said.
Yes.
Working in silos. This committee doesn't work in silos. I will reiterate what I said earlier. Presentation should have been made to this committee.
Yeah.
All right? So I'm going to
We
stay
got the
with that.
details.
What?
We got the details right here. We're
No,
making
no,
a decision.
no.
We're making the decision to
No,
recommend
no,
this
no,
to
hold. I'll
council.
try to-
Thank
One
you.
more time.
Yeah.
Presentation should have been made to this committee.
Yeah.
It wasn't made to the committee.
Yeah.
And we do not work in silos.
Yeah. And one more
Our
time.
committee doesn't work in silos.
And one more time.
Yeah.
We make the recommendation. Recommendation is going to be a positive recommendation going to finance. So I'm supporting it.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Frank, Christopher, Michael. Thank you very much.
What do we put on the floor? Recommendation to add this to our capital budget, our submission, because that's all we did. Our capital initiatives, is that what we're wanting, is that what you're asking for here? We would add this to our existing capital initiatives, and then it goes to finance to be prioritized? Is that ultimately what we're doing? Or, but we're saying not the detriment of anything that was already kind of moved forward as a priority?
I think we move forward as an addition to our capital projects, not to delete or subtract what we already have. That's where I stand in the matter. An addition, not a deletion, not a subtraction, an addition.
I move the addition in a recommendation to finance. Addition. I need a seconder.
Yeah, that's fair.
Question called. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Okay, resolution. Resolution to award an RFP for the 2024 Simmons Sports Center ice resurface replacement to be circulated.
So Chair Tweel and committee, we weren't able to, the the RFP just closed on Friday. We were hopeful that we were going to have an actual resolution and issue summary completed, but it's taken us longer to evaluate the RFP. So what I'm going to be asking, we're going to be working on it today and tomorrow morning, is if we could do a quick meeting on Wednesday to consider this. We could do it an online meeting if people can't make in here. I don't see it being any longer than 15 minutes, 20 minutes. We would like to get this awarded sooner rather than later because of the actual timeline it takes for delivery. And we would like to have it here. It might not be here when the facility opens, but it would be here shortly afterwards. And it's a new electric Zamboni is what we're looking at ordering, so.
That's fine. My question to you is, will this resurfacer be computerized? like the one in Rustico?
And what do you mean by computerized? As
Well,
in,
apparently, from what I understand, I guess we're talking the Zamboni, correct?
yeah,
Okay, so I understand,
it'll have a diagnostic computer on board, if that's what you mean.
yes.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
and in terms of, regardless of how fast the vehicle goes, it's, I understand it's one of the best ice surfaces. NHL players used it this past summer, Mike, and they said it was probably one of the best ice surfaces they've ever practiced on.
Yeah, yeah,
And that was attributed
certainly.
to, that was attributed to the, I guess the computer played a major role in that,
Yeah,
indispensable
the
role.
ice resurface certainly would play a role in that. There's other factors, but Rustico has a simmer plant that the New Simmons will have too. So ice conditions at New Simmons will certainly be as good or better than any
So
other ice
it'll have the
conditions on the
same,
island.
okay, I'll come at it another way. Will it have the same technology?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. That.
So just if I can get, or if people are available to have a quick meeting on Wednesday. I know, I believe you, Councilor Matart, you have a meeting at noon. So, so I could line the meeting up for 11:45 and have it, okay, all right. So I'll line it up for 12, and it'll take 15 minutes. It really should only take 15 minutes. It's going to be pretty straightforward.
Oh, that's fine, Frank.
Okay, thank you, everyone, for your time on that.
We have a couple of reports. Seniors Engagement Committee. Any questions on that, Councilor Vitar?
Thank
Youth
you,
and
Councillor
Engagement
Tweel. I
Committee.
read through both of them and no questions or concerns.
I'm just going to provide a quick highlight, and I know that everyone will see, just because I know everyone reads through them, but the Seniors Engagement Committee, they're working on a work plan right now to set themselves up for the future. And something that the Youth Engagement Committee is working on, which I think is very exciting, and DL is actually a staff liaison person with the committee, but they're working with the Live Well PEI podcast initiative that they're doing. So we've received some funding on that, and they're working on putting together 8 different podcasts that will be available for youth out in the community. So
I did have an item that I wanted to bring up under new business. I brought it up at our last council meeting, and that is the recognition of Billy McGuigan, head coach of the Western Capitals, who's celebrated another milestone. We attempted to do something for him back during COVID, and it did come through our committee and our department, Frank. And I know you folks are busy, but I'd like to do something where we officially recognize Mr. McGuigan and have him in and just give a bit of a brief citation and have his parents in as well. He's a local boy, grew up in Despersey Crescent, and I think it'll be a nice tribute to the gentleman.
my understanding is that it didn't go through our committee previously. We didn't actually have an event, according to Christopher, he remembers. And I don't know, something like this is one of these things I think council would have to support us even going to do an event. We have lots of people out in the community that are volunteers that do a lot of great work and whatnot. And I'm just not sure how we can just go and, pick one individual. Not that Billy McGuigan isn't, has contributed a lot to the team he coaches and whatnot, but I'm just not sure. Maybe Eleanor can provide additional comment.
I do believe we did attempted to recognize his achievements. And again, I think COVID played a role in getting in the way of recognizing this gentleman. So all I want to do is just reinforce what we did, and with COVID getting in the way, and I want to recognize Mr. McGuigan. it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, but, he's, again, it's a sports achievement, and I'd like to recognize him.
I know when we had spoke about this before, that it was something that we had to run through the mayor's office as well, too, in recognition of individuals in the community. And I don't know if there was a complete appetite to do that as well.
Yeah.
For Mr.
Christopher, I
McQuaid.
think it's, Mr. Chair, I think Jackie was reviewing it, so Jackie McKinnon, the executive assistant, so we can circle back to her. She was doing the research on it. I believe you've spoken to her since, or has she
Yeah,
informed you?
And as Frank mentioned too, it is difficult when you single out one individual for something, when there's other individuals in the community who are, contributing to minor sports or whatever in the community, that it can be difficult to single out one individual who's with a group that's in Summerside.
I can understand that to a certain extent, Christopher, but I do believe it was vetted through this committee back 2 or 3 years ago. So I'll stick with that, and, it's great to have the mayor's office involved, but I'd like to have that opportunity to recognize this gentleman. He's a Charlottetown native, grew up in Despersey Crescent, proud parents Brenda and Barney McGuigan, and Billy's accomplished a lot, and I think it'd be well-deserved to recognize him.
Just, Councillor Toohill, just in regard to a similar discussion, we may be looking at developing some sort of policy around the recognition of certain people. So that may help in the future to determine that and how we do that, and maybe formalize that to the point where we're confused right now as to where it belongs or who should do it. It's great that the mayor's office might be able to assist in that, but if we had that criteria, it would help determine exactly where we could go down the path to recognize many people for their achievements. So I don't know if that's part and parcel, a little bit to the key to the city type of situation.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just through the chair, Councilman Tart, I think the other night what we were speaking to was just that one area. There is already criteria for our natal day ceremonies on how we choose and select individuals to recognize their service in the community. That already exists. But Christopher, if you or Frank could just circle back to Jackie and just get some of that background information. And the chair himself can speak to Jackie McKinnon, our EA, and just get an update from what's going on. So, as the chair said, Christopher, we did look or discuss this a couple of years ago. Yeah. So there should be some background information.
COVID did get in the way, and it'd just be nice to just give a fitting tribute. I mean, every time you turn around, there's another milestone for this gentleman, and he's doing a terrific job in the hockey community. Okay. Move for adjournment. Move second.
Thank you kindly.